Well, thank you so much for being here for those wonderful films. I would like to have the filmmakers with me together on the stage. And I will give one microphone for the Q&A. Yeah, doesn't matter. Thank you so much. Well, all right. First of all, I would like to give you, I have it here. There you go. Two certificates. One for you, Paula, and one for you. Well, yeah, a round of applause for our guests. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this session, and I'm very, very glad that I can moderate it. Well, how to start this? So we want to do a quick Q&A, and I would like to ask you some questions, and I would also love when you ask yourself some questions about your beautiful films. But I may start with a maybe very classical introductory question, which is how did you came up with your idea for your films, and how did you approach your protagonists? That would be, I think, very interesting in the beginning. And start with you, Paula.
Thank you, Robert. Well, I'm going to try to be quick because we're so many, and it's nice that you are all present also, because sometimes it's hard to get things from the online conference. But yeah, it is. I'm super happy to be here. The film was actually born from my master's research in social anthropology there in Brazil. I'm Paula. I'm from Brazil, and I was doing this research with this family that was bringing up this project of music teaching in their neighborhood. It was a thing that was brought by the kids. They wanted to do this for their fellow colleagues and neighbors. And yeah, I was doing this research, and I was almost there in the house with them, spent 2 years going there every day. I was their student also. They taught me music. And when I realized I was living there with them and being in that environment, so that's when the idea of making that, bringing that experience to a larger audience, like what is it to be in this environment, what it means to be around this family and follow them and their lifestyle, but also their desires. So that's when Mihai came up also, and maybe if you want to talk about it or don't have to, but yeah. So the film was born from this wish to get into this universe and make it also possible for other people that are not experiencing this with them to get a little bit of their daily lives and their relationship to music.
Hi, sorry, I'm Eric. Pleased to be here, and this is Nadav. I research the Himalayas, so it was quite natural for me to be up there. And Nadav, we traveled together to create films. Nadav does have various filmmakers, various films, mostly scientific documentaries. And I was working on ethnographic rituals and their change in historical time. And I had this manuscript with me, and we decided to go and explore this particular part of the Himalayas. And we reached an impasse because we were looking for a specific ritual, actually, and they told us that it was canceled and would only happen in a month or two. So we ended up having some extra time, and we decided to pursue the most popular form of religion that we knew, which was in the middle of Himachal Pradesh in India. And it's the form of goddess worship. And people encounter, as you saw, the goddess in their dreams and so forth. And it actually ties various strands of popular Hinduism and more orthodox Hinduism together to show how these ideas manifest in rituals and discourse and so forth.
Yeah, this film we just saw, it's like part of the magic for me of this film is that it was totally improvised. It was not conceptualized like in advance for months, raising money and all this. We got stuck in the mountains and we had to look for a new idea because we didn't want to go back to Israel without anything after we came there to shoot the human sacrifice. So that was part of the beauty. We just walked in the mountains for a month and a half, starting in the low grounds and going up all the time. And as we went up, we discovered our mystical reality and the reality of the mystical reality of the film, which was pretty cool.
Well, thank you so much. Actually, I have tons of questions in my head. I don't know if we can figure them all out. And I honestly would like to ask the audience first about impressions, commentaries, and some questions that arise in your heads while watching those beautiful films. Is there anyone brave enough? Yeah. Yeah, there first.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Brief question for both films. And thank you again for the films. I really enjoyed both of them. I would like to ask, because as far as I understand, I don't know, you are also anthropologist and filmmaker, or, so we have this kind of relationship in both films. I was kind of wondering how did this worked out in the field. We have specialist anthropologist working there on the research, and then a documentary filmmaker coming in. How did you communicate filmic ideas? In general, how did it work out in the field? And then later on, how you collaborated on making the film, finishing the film. Thank you.
Do you want to answer? Okay. So we are actually both anthropologists, and well, we also do films. So, so I think it was easy for us to collaborate in that respect. I mean, we didn't had any kind of, let's say, a very divergent vision about what is happening, but we tried to respect our territories. So I was doing the camera, Paula was doing the sound. So in practical terms, we had to focus on our jobs. But I was trying to respect the fact that this is based on like Paula's research, and she was the one that built the relationship with the family and everything. So I came later on. And well, it was more of a concern of how to build a relationship with them, or me, how to be. And at that point, I didn't speak any, not any, but not too much Portuguese. So I didn't really understand what they were saying, which is interesting because they were talking music, so that I understand. And we were like, in the beginning, we were trying to find our ways of how to direct this together. And then Paula came up with this idea of like focusing on the gestures and go for like gestures. And that would be like the guiding principle visually of what was happening over there. And that was great because then we just went together further away, and then, yeah, we kind of discussed our own positioning in what we're doing. You wanna?
I would just add something that I think more than the positions we were kind of filling in that specific moment, I guess the timing is also very important, because it could easily be the other way around, but it was a research that I was kind of conducting. So when Mihai came to the research, he also had an anthropological approach and the vision, but the timing was that it was the time for filming, so it was not a time for research. The research was basically done for my master's. So I guess there was, it would have been confusing. I'm saying that it would have been confusing if it was in the beginning. If from the start of my research, we would be a team filming, I guess it would be a totally different film, you know? So more than the positions, I think the moment when the film was born was also when there was enough understanding, and it was when we were both able to collaborate in a much more kind of oriented to a purpose. So it was different than the research itself, because the research itself, it's kind of it's not a very much guided process. It's an experience, and you go building up on that. So I think that's how we managed to do it. That's why it might have been a little bit smooth than it seems when you see a team that's working on the field. But I guess this fact is something that it was playing on our side.
Yeah, it was a very good experience. For me, it was first contact with an anthropologist. So I always dreamt to be, dreamt myself to be anthropologist, and my films were oriented in this direction, but I never was, did movies, and it was very educational relationship. I taught Arik films, and he taught me all he knows about this place, and without him, when you travel in such a, in India, for example, and you try to understand the rituals, there's no way you can understand anything, not only because of the language, the historical context, everything. It would have been impossible to make it without the knowledge and the story. And as filmmaker, I'm always looking for stories. So Arik is a storyteller in his way, and he brought the story, and a very deep story. It was very, very cool. You want to add something?
Thank you. No, thank you very much. Well, for two things. One is an honest disclosure. I'm actually primarily a historian and trained as a historian, but I do a lot of ethnography as well. So I'm actually holding both hats to the extent that I can. And just to answer, so it was a very classical approach in many ways, all this, like, it was very fruitful, I think. I learned a lot about editing, sound, and all of the things that go into visual storytelling. And then at the same time, there was all this background context and data to provide. So I was familiar with the area for about 18 years, and I was interested, as I said, in ritual changes. So the topics were very clear. And just so the language was easy to conduct and negotiate with. And I think one of the interesting things that I saw in terms of anthropological theory that kind of pops in is, for example, in the closing scene when they give the sacrifice of the goat, those, yeah, it's hard to stomach sometimes, but then it's the idea is regeneration, right? So you kill one thing or you sacrifice one thing to get more, and then all of a sudden I noticed that visually all these new white goats appear, this nice flock out of nowhere. So that actually works. Well, the dog is a different story, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's another question here in front.
Already answered. I just wanted to know, how did you understand what was going on? But you answered it already.
And there's one in the back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us your films. My question would be for both the filmmakers of AVATARA. Just, I only watched the film right now, and I'm also hoping to watch it again and maybe get more context about the film. However, through watching it the first time, I felt that there was certain kind of a forced narrative to the people of that region and their beliefs somehow. I don't know. I felt that they were portrayed in a way that was bit maybe too negative and like that's it. This is from my point of view. But again, maybe I didn't watch it enough or I don't have enough context. But I feel that it's a little bit objectifying in a way or another and like reproducing those somehow colonial perspective, I guess, on those people. But maybe you can educate me if you have different perspective, but this is like how I felt about it. Thank you.
Yeah. First time I hear this criticism, which is very nice. But I think you should ask yourself why you felt this and try to articulate it for us, because I don't think we meant to objectify or look at them in a negative way. We learned a lot from them, and it was a very inspiring experience for us. So if you could tell us, maybe think a bit and tell us why you thought that.
Yes, I'll just add thank you, first of all, and I understand the criticism, but I really don't see anything negative in the way people were portrayed there in any sense. But I would like to know, what makes you think that. But if you do want more information, then I've written an article that's an open access and that describes the process and also some of the theory behind it. So that can be useful.
Maybe it's because the way we portrayed them in the exorcism scene, where we showed very intimate moment in.
Yeah.
Is
Maybe,
that?
yeah. Maybe it's because of that. Maybe because of like the choice of what to show and what not to show. I guess basically what we saw was more like regarding the exorcism and like the sacrifice, and then certain how people would drink a certain way and very. I mean the scene with the men drinking those milk and so somehow. But I felt that the collection of shots you chose by the end to show in the film together, maybe they give this, I think, mood or emotion that I felt during the film. But again, from another side, I feel that there's this narrative in the film, both aesthetically speaking. I mean, it's beautiful, very beautiful shots, the way they're shot. But then also the aesthetical narrative is like mystifying somehow, or this kind of belief, and like going with the narrative that it's something far away, different, mysterious, that we're not very aware of, maybe dangerous. I felt it through also through the aesthetical choices of the scenes. But yeah, I would really love to discuss more maybe after the films. I don't really want to take much more from your time, but I would really love maybe to discuss more and exchange.
Yeah.
But really thank you for sharing your film.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that question. There's another one here in the front.
I have similar experience, like the exorcism in Ethiopian Orthodox Church. There is like holy water and so on, and you see a lot of people going to this trance state and so on. This belief system, they are metaphysical. They are beyond this physical realm, but they need an anchor to this world. They need material, they need bodies and so on. Even when they are addressing the person, it's not the person they are talking to. When they put force on the person, it's not the person. They are addressing this, like the beyond physical sublime object in that person, in that object, and so on and so on. And I find somehow also it's very complicated to portray in a film, because film is, it's, the objects are determined, but the subject matter is very complicated in a way. And I really love the way how they are anchored. For example, you mentioned the scene when the sacrifice of a goat is followed by like a lot of goats. And also there was another scene. Since they were talking about the younger Lhasa goddess, you find a goddess, like a small kid coming down to the mountain, like her gaze, look, and so on, pretty much embodied the spirit that you were referring to. I thought it's a brilliant film, and it did also justice to like the belief system. I very much enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for this question and commentary in once. And well, what I'm interested in about your film was primarily the anthropological part, maybe because I did my own research also about Hinduism, but that was another Hindu sect which is totally abolished sacrifices and stuff like that in Gujarat region. And so what maybe I would like to ask you if you can to explain us something about the overall religious system that is happening there. Like what is, for example, what is Shaktiism? I would really like to know a little bit about it, if you can do that in a few sentences.
So in just a, thank you, this big challenge. So in a few sentences, it's the belief that all life is pervaded and animated by a female divine power, which we call Shakti. Shakti is literally power, but also the name of the goddess. And one of the main findings from our work in this region was that Shakti, on the one hand, embodies the universe and everything in it, all phenomena, but also divides into various different parts. And we noticed that people turn to Shakti and speak to Shakti as a mother, and that mother is often very kind of terrifying and punishing. But when she comes to give her blessings, it's almost always in the form of this virgin child. So that's the idea. That's like a pre-corrupted by sexuality and menstruation, very innocent kind of idea of a child, a goddess, as opposed to the punishing mother. That was, I think you can see that nicely in the film. So.
Yeah, extremely interesting. And I'm definitely gonna ask you way more questions about it after this discussion. I would like to go back to your film, Paula and Mihai. What I was really, really interested in was this family that happened to be in this town that I don't know, Fortaleza. Can you explain a little bit about this area and what is so underdeveloped about it? Like, because I don't know anything about it, and I was so curious about this family.
Thank you, Robert. I think it's a great question because it might have stayed quite obscure for everybody. And during the film, we quite don't explain things that much. We are rather like kind of entering that domestic environment and following the music. But yeah, Fortaleza is a city in the northeastern part of Brazil. It's the northeastern part is very culturally diverse. It's also known to be one of the first places of the colonization when it started. So it's also very much rooted in exploitation, and then as a result, you have large numbers of inequality and poverty. So it's a very unequal city. So you have there where they live. It's in the outskirts of the city, where it's a city in the literal. It's a very beautiful coast, but you don't see it there from where they are, because they are in a very vulnerable neighborhood, where you have lots of problems with violence and drug factions. And so we have like statistics of countries at war, as in homicidal numbers. So it's a very controversial and very dangerous for youth. Mostly, it's mostly youth people, that young people that are suffering from these threats, but also these environments, and they are coming from this area, and as a family, they've coming from the countryside, which is also another story. That the countryside, people from the countryside often migrated to the capital and the littoral of the state because of the drought. So that's where their family come from, and they come from a family of musicians, but popular musicians. And it was very well, it was very badly seen to be musician and to be playing mundane music and all, and they wanted to. So kind of this generation of the kids is the first generation to have to know scholarly music and to go for that path, also as a requirement from the parents. Like, if you're gonna play, you're gonna play classical, you're gonna go through this path, you're not gonna go there, because otherwise you're also lost and doomed. So they have this mindset, and in the background there is a very pretty much evangelical drive to give back something that they have received as a gift. So they're talented, and they want to offer their talent to the kids in their neighborhood that are their friends, and also go to the same school. So they are dealing with these issues daily, but they are fighting it in their ways and how they know to fight. So I guess there's also the quote with the superhero things is also there to state that they are also having a very strong notion of their values and their morals, and they want to feel like superheroes as well. So that's I don't know if I I answered you, but I gave you maybe a bigger picture of where they are.
How does music play a role in all this? For the family, or like in general for the area? For the area, like the music it's very diverse, and music is culturally associated with some groups maybe in the area. So that's why there's this story that Paula started telling when he didn't wanted the kids to study music, but by the father of the family. So, but by music, he would understand maybe Monday funk, forró, which is a very popular genre there, because he didn't want it to be associated with a particular kind of like way of living. But Axel like used to steal the guitar of the father and play the like hidden. And then the father discovered and say, okay, so if you want to study music, you have to go this path, classical music, which is like something very rare in the area. But, and yeah, it was a thing of the brothers to start this and also start the school and create a local movement around their house and around the school. But if you hear, I mean, there's a sequence in the film that I don't know if, like, for a non-Brazilian, it's obvious, but I find it super relevant in the sense that it's the scene when they go to the city hall. There's this law enforcement organization that is actually a kind of music police. So sound police, so sound pollution. So they basically get the big speakers from the cars, which is called paredão. Paredão means like a wall, like a big wall, yeah. And they they arrest it. And so they have all these speakers like electronics, and they think, so what to do with them now? So they give it to like cultural projects, to like the ones of the Cruz family. So it's also like a politics of what is good and what is not good in with music. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting for us to also include various types of musics in the film, because the music was all around. It was also rap music in Rio and also other things.
Yes, but I guess this is also one thing that we should say, that the inclusion was mostly like not cutting it in the edit, because all the music that from the film is from the moment it was caught there. So it's diegetic, and we wanted to keep it because it would be a guiding thing for us, since we also during the research it was mostly I was mostly talking about how some values are associated with certain musical genres and how this shapes people's lives and choices. Like, I'm going to go through that path and not that path. Otherwise, I'm going to be mixed with gangster. I'm going to be mixed with something. And if I have a guitar in my hand, it's fine. Everybody knows that I'm okay. You know, it's like going around the neighborhood with a Bible. It's also like you're safe. So that's one of the things, because these neighborhoods are all traced, so they have to negotiate to do something in the neighborhood. They have to negotiate with the drug lord of the neighborhood. They have to, so they have a space there because they are respected, because they are doing a good job there, and nobody messes with them, and they mess with nobody. But probably like this the big wall of paredão de som, the big sound wall, it's entering in a local economy of circulation. So probably they have it now, but they lend it to whoever needs, and in order for it not to get confiscated again, so they hold it back. There is this dynamics of, and it's also attached to the also how it's portrayed mediatically. So yeah, it goes on. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. That was very elaborate. Thank you so much for being here. And maybe we have still time. We don't have any time anymore. I would love to talk way more about both of your films. But yeah, we will do that probably in the breaks, and maybe tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. We still have a lot of time. I hope you're going to be around. That's amazing. Thank you so much for participating in this film session. And yeah, give it a round of applause for our filmmakers. And yeah, enjoy the next one. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
I have to bring this back. Well done. That was really well done. Oh, I love your dress. I didn't even notice.